There is so many things that you didn't know how to do. There is so many goals that you didn't thought you will accomplish, but you did.
Janis spent years trying his hand at YouTube, podcasting, blogging.
A lot of those things really felt like an uphill battle, or it felt like I'm not playing with my strengths.
Then he stumbled upon the idea of communicating ideas visually.
A lot of my content comes from personal reflections.
He loved the process and started taking that seriously. 6 months later, he built momentum and quit his 9-to-5 job.
In a matter of 2 months, I earned more money than I earned in 9 to 5 the whole year.
Now, millions of people sees his visual every single month. He built an audience of over 220,000 people and work with people that he dreamed of working with. If you're an aspiring creator or someone that wants to leverage content creation for your own business, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Hey Janis, welcome to the Nomad Solopreneur Show.
Hey, very happy to be here. Good energy. Even before you started to hit recording, it was already a good conversation.
Exactly, sure. I hit record before that. Man, I'm excited because you're one of the few creators that can actually say that his creation end up in the face of millions. And why? Why transforming ideas in easy to understand visuals?
That's a good question. And I guess, of course, there's a lot of backstory, but it all started with the desire to have this nomad lifestyle, or I back in the days, I called it like the laptop lifestyle. I wanted to be my own boss. I saw all these like bloggers traveling the world and making online businesses. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. I want a piece of that. So basically, then I just got super hooked into like self-development and all this online business. I had no idea before that. Nobody around me did something like this. So I was very clueless and I was just consuming internet and audio books like crazy, and podcasts as well. And yeah, I tried many things, various forms of content creation, even tried to build like some SaaS applications back in the days. And a lot of those things really felt like an uphill battle, or it felt like I'm not playing with my strengths. But when I stumbled upon this idea of creating, like explaining ideas visually, that felt very compelling for me. I really enjoyed digesting that type of content. And back in the days, like there were few people who did something like this. And I just started to play around and experiment with it. And it really felt, it was very intrinsically motivating. It was something that I was able to be consistent while building a house, having children, working 9 to 5. It still felt doable to be consistent with this type of content creation format. And yeah, soon after I started to be like really consistent with this stuff, I started for the first time, like in 4 years since I started to try anything online, it was the first time I started to see some results in terms of like audience growth. You know, some people reach out to me on DMs and say, hey, can you do this for me? I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Because for 4 years, it was just various random experiments which didn't lead to such results. So yeah, that's a little bit of a backstory, how I ended up with this and why I love doing it.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there that for me it's intriguing, the consistency part of it. Because I kind of feel that it's so freaking hard on a daily basis to come up with such deep ideas. And not only coming with ideas, but actually transition that visually. How did you go through the process of getting ideas, transition that into visuals?
Well, I would say getting ideas is pretty basic. You, of course, need to be like a curious person, a curious consumer. If you are interested about whatever solopreneurship, whatever is your niche, whatever is your interest, you obviously read stuff about it, listen to podcasts about it, read blogs, whatever, and then just take notes. Keep an open mind. Don't be just a mindless consumer, but try to pay attention. Hey, I see something here. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this idea reminds me of my experience, whatever, back in the days. And that's how you just start to take notes, and it should be very messy, very ugly, very crazy. But that's one of the main parts of having ideas regularly. But one thing which I would add, everybody understands, it's listen to a podcast, hear a good idea, note it down, very basic. But I would say a lot of my content comes from personal reflections. When I just, just for an example, before this conversation, as a lot of people are, before giving presentations or whenever you're feeling a bit like uneasy, maybe a little bit of stressed or something. And that is a very relatable idea for a lot of people. So take a note of that thing, and you maybe later down the line can come up with some sort of like visual concept. But that's more like on gathering ideas part. when I create actual these visuals, of course, there's the process is longer, but in general, I would say there's two very main parts among this big brainstorming process. First thing, you have your original idea. As we discussed just maybe before presentations, I feel stress. Let's say I want to communicate that to my audience. And then I have this original idea. And first thing I need to do, I need to what I call generate text elements. So you look at that original idea. I feel stressed before presentations. Okay, what's else here? Okay, how do I feel after the presentation? Why I feel stressful? You just start to add more elements to this idea. Just on sticky notes, let's say you have your original idea and you just try to come up with as many things as possible that kind of complements this idea. And then that's the first part. And then you start to generate visual elements. You might look at your sticky notes with a bunch of these things, and you might, let's say, take a basic visual element like bar charts. Everybody is familiar with them with like financial data or whatever. But what would happen if some of these text elements we would start to place in this graph, or maybe a Venn diagram? That's a very basic thing, how to think about these things. And you just start to play around and brainstorm when you start to see some patterns emerging, and then maybe you reword some stuff and the concept starts to take shape. And then you can, of course, amplify the idea with trying to figure out just how I can give a bit more punch or meaning to this idea. I'm being very all over the place, but the process in general is very all over the place. But there are some of these key ingredients which might, for people, help to understand, okay, that's a bit how Janis thinks. And then you just brainstorm and think about, and then of course there's like some other stuff that goes into it. And later down the line, you have some sort of checklist. Okay, is it simple? Is it clear? You ask your wife, hey, do you understand this concept? So yeah, I said a lot of words. I hope
Sense,
they
and
make sense.
especially the idea part, because I want to get back a bit to that, since you mentioned something very important, that you identify something that people will relate to. Since a lot of people go through that process of being a bit anxious or a bit stressed before a call or before a presentation. And I think that's one important factor that makes your visuals stand out, because a lot of people relate to them. A lot of people go through that same emotion, same patterns, same habits or whatever. And then it's much more easier for that to get amplified, get shared, and so on. And I think in all the creator space and the creator process, it's a missing thing from most people content. They are not it's not relatable enough with others, especially their audience. And once you nail that down like you well do, then I love the fact that you have a messy process, because that's creativity, like throwing up ideas on paper or on sticky notes or whatever to come up with an actual end product which resonates. And why not start with the end? Because people think like it's like, I want to end up with the end result. Like, why it's so important to have these initial messy steps, if you want, when it comes to creating?
Well, I think just like it's tremendously, yeah, I guess through that brainstorming process, when you have these bunch of random, and of course you have your original direction that you want to communicate, and then you generate bunch of these other elements. Most of them you trash, you don't use, and that's absolutely normal. But without that messy process, you can't come up with some of those concepts. It's just delusional to think that, oh, I had this perfect idea here and it's exactly how it looks. It like almost never happens. There is this brainstorming process where you start to make connections, because I have one of this one visual where there's your brain is full of, it's like more for writing, but your brain is full of like words and random stuff and it's all chaotic. And then when you take out those words and put them on paper, it's easier to make sense of them. So it's very hard to figure things out in your brain, but when you put them out on the paper or whatever, it's easier to observe and be the judge of this. Okay, this is good, this is bad. So yeah, I think that's just the way how you can come up with something novel and new as well, because I don't know. I just can't come up with super fancy stuff in my brain alone. Of course, sometimes some concept evolves in the brain and I like, oh yeah, this could be good, but it's very rare. And of course, it comes from of years of doing this, and then your pattern recognition starts to improve. So yeah, but I don't know, messy process is just the key. I'm like, back in the days, was one of this guy who likes to have this perfect productivity system, this and that, and everything should be super organized. I understand this is just ridiculous. I spent so much time organizing this garbage and the output is nothing, I just can be proud that I have this fancy productivity system that doesn't serve me absolutely well. And now I have this absolute mess in my notes. It's just a shit show. But I'm producing stuff, I'm creating, and that actually works. That's supporting my work instead of, just trying to organize something that shouldn't really be organized. But okay, maybe I'm wired differently. I don't know. But I've seen this being the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, I bet, because at the end of the day, we are all different, right? And that perfect routine in which you wake up at 4 a.m., you take a cold plunge and, I don't know, meditate for 3 hours, and then you do 2 hours of deep work. That's more for everyone. And speaking of messy, like, because you mentioned that you throw away a lot of things, do you end up reusing things that you created for a
Absolutely, absolutely, of course. And in general, I try to be consistent and produce stuff daily. And for example, if I'm focused a little bit on some other stuff where I don't really feel inspired, I now have this big volume of visuals that I have created. And I often just look at some of my old visuals. Sometimes I just make a little iterations, little design tweaks and post it again because a lot of people haven't seen it, and I kind of remain my consistency. And of course, this consistency, feeds into the business and everything. So that's good. And I often just look at some of my concepts and I think, I think this we can do better. And I start to change some stuff, and then some completely new concept evolves. So yeah, absolutely. Everything is saved and it's reused, and it's like this iterative, messy process moving forward.
And to move a bit, because and both me and those listening, I think they really understand now the process of creating this and coming with ideas and being consistent. But when it comes to actually because you mentioned that you quit and go full on solo into those initial gigs that you mentioned, that people reach out to you in DMs to ask you to create something for them, were the first revenue generated?
Yeah, well, the thing here was I was in a really good position. Let me explain how that quitting 9 to 5 happened. It was around the same time that my wife was pregnant with our second child. I was in a quite stressful 9 to 5 job. I was a project manager in IT company, and just the project was not going well and got my ass kicked and stuff. So it was rough. It was rough and a little bit of stressful. And that was around 6 months in since I started to be very consistent with visuals. And some audience grew. I started initially on Twitter, now X, and I was focusing on that platform. And yeah, some 6 months in, I don't know, maybe I had 1,500 followers or something like that. Not like massive amount of followers, but still like the engagement was pretty good. And yeah, some people reached out to me in DM and asked, hey, can you design this and that for me? And initially I said no, because he was asking for like a design service. And I'm not a designer. I really don't consider myself as a designer. Okay, I can say maybe I had some taste and I understand the basics, which is true. But I'm like, you asked me to design some fancy UX. No, sorry, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy for the job. I really try to position myself like I can help you explain ideas visually. You have some ideas that you want to communicate, I can try to help to come up with concepts on if we can stick to a similar style that I have. Let's do it. Let's have fun. But initially I said a lot of no's. But having this consistent audience growth and having these DMs gave me like a little bit of confidence, like, wow, something is happening. And actually, I didn't even consider quitting my job. That was absolutely a no-go because we just built a house, had one kid, second kid on the way. There's a lot of responsibilities. So I was just like, this is not happening. But actually, my wife helped me with this, and we sat down and we understood, okay, if we look at our savings, if we look at some government supports, because second child, she had a job, you get some government support, blah, blah, blah. If I will quit my job, then I get a bit of government support for a certain period of time. We calculated all that money and we understood, okay, even like for 2.5 years, if we earn absolutely zero, we can maintain our current lifestyle, with whatever that we spent each month. And she said, whatever, go for it. Let's see. Well, what's the worst that can happen? Is like you work in IT, it feels like pretty in demand field. It will be fine or whatever. So she kind of prompted me to quit. And then I actually pulled the plug. And yeah. And I think one thing which was, I guess, kind of good, but a lot of people don't go through this like I did, because a lot of people go from 9 to 5 to freelance. And I said no to a lot of these freelance gigs, which felt like not a good fit. And my first freelance gig actually was with Sean Puri from My First Million podcast. He was like creating a course and he wanted some visuals for that. So he hired me for 3 weeks part-time, which was a massive big deal for me. And that was like my first income after leaving 9 to 5. But that was like, I think, some 3 months after I quit my 9 to 5. So, and of course, some other freelance gigs just randomly popped into my DMs. But as I said, I had a bit this money buffer. My intention was not to burn through our savings or whatever, but I had this buffer, so I didn't felt obligated to take on anything that felt like not a good fit. So I guess I wasn't desperate
Yeah.
to get gigs and desperate to get money, which is a good place to be. And then basically, which would be 1 year since I started to create visuals consistently. Throughout the year, like a lot of people commented or reached me out in DMs like, "Hey, Janis, how do you come up with this stuff? How do you think about this, etc., etc." Which was like the best place where a creator can be to build a course where actually you are not thinking to build a course, but people are asking you to do it, which was like, okay, I guess this could happen. And I know some creators who earn money with courses and stuff. And so, yeah, 1 year later, I did a pre-launch which sold well. I like in matter of 2 months, I earned, I think, more money than I earned like in 9 to 5, like a whole year, which of course is launch and all that stuff. And like currently, like the money you earn is like up and down. Some months you feel like you're conquering the world, and some months you understand, shit, I earned less than my monthly expenses. So it's very wild with the creator business, like one negative. But yeah, launching that course was a big deal, and it's still like my main revenue driver to date. And I just kind of supplement that with some freelance here and there. But that's how I survived for 3.5 years. It's not like I'm earning crazy amounts of money, but we're fine. We're having a good life and all is well. But I do look now for a little bit more stability. So I'm thinking about like how I can figure out some maybe productized services to get some recurring clients, So it's not this on and off freelance where somebody asks me to illustrate a book and then there's some money jumps in and then again 5 months without nothing and I just rely on the course. So there is like, that's currently my revenue model and how I live. It's not super stable or whatever, but that's what it is for now. But looking forward to improve it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And especially since a lot of people imagine that when you're a creator, you're having a big following, you're super successful on social media, that you make a lot of money on a consistent basis without the ups and downs, without the usual like feast and famine cycles and so on. And of course, that's not the case. That's not reality. And whoever pictured that, they're probably lying. They are just creating things. And I love how you have that buffer in order to have peaceful time to with your expertise and thinking about how I can position this, how I can do it, and will actually told you like I want how to go through the same process. And speaking of that, since creative space is kind of being due to AI, and a lot of people are afraid of losing their jobs or freelancing gigs or whatever. When it comes to how you can can you stand out in this era that we're living without I don't know selling your soul and becoming someone that you don't want to be and saying no to those things that you well.
Yeah, the AI it's an interesting question and I don't have a really good answer to this, but here's a little bit how I look at this and why I'm not like really afraid of it, at least me. But of course, I do believe some people who work in specific areas should be afraid because it will be just outsourced to robots because they will do it better, faster, etc., etc. But of course, for creators, it's a little bit different, and I think especially for creators who like use a little bit their face, especially like YouTubers, podcasters, I think will still thrive because there is this human factor. And one analogy which I like to use in this case is, it's maybe not the best one, but I can go to a knife's shop or kitchen shop and get like a really good knife, production made knife, or I can go to some random guy who like hammers down iron by his own hands, goes, cuts trees, makes the knife, whatever it is called, the handle or whatever. It's handmade, it's craftsmanship. You just like, you can't compare these two things, even if whatever the fancy knife that you got from the whatever store, which is mass production made or whatever, in some big factory, it doesn't have that character, that vibe, that beauty, that rawness, and that imperfection that you will get from that craftsman, whatever, in some local village. And I think it's the same kind of, at least for content creators and for people who make products. For example, I post these visuals, but I immediately decided at least it will be behind my name. I don't want to use a brand name. I want to use my face because I like to consume content from people. I like to see their faces. I like to buy from people, not companies. And this factor. So I think people really need to think about how to convey a little bit of this emotion, a bit of this authenticity, because I do believe that AI will spit out better blog posts than some random blogger, but I don't care about that fake AI generated thing unless it's something super information driven where I just want to get this information. Then, of course, AI is better. I can just ask ChatGPT and he gives me what I need. But for some entertainment type of stuff, or where you want some opinions about certain things, you want to go to people, not to AI. And I do believe that will remain the true factor. And that's why I'm kind of not that afraid about AI. And that's a little bit how I think about it. But I might be wrong, of course, and we are all doomed to have uh, have
Better
nothing to
robots.
do.
Yeah, we'll see what
But at
happens.
least the robots will take care of everything else. If they will take care of everything else, we can just do what the hell we want. And that's fine.
Yeah,
But we'll see.
yeah, definitely. It's hard to tell, but I love your opinion, and I resonate with it because if we keep on being authentic and keep on sharing our stories and struggles, wins, and so on, it's so hard for that to be replicated by AI. And because at the end of the day, as you mentioned, AI is good for spitting out information or coming out with concepts, probably, or
It's amazing tool. It's amazing tool, but it's an assistant. It's an assistant to help you, the like main brains of this enterprise.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, like if you manage to leverage it, and I'm curious if you at some point will leverage it in your own work in some way or another, or do you do it right?
Well, depends. One thing which I wanted to say is I think what people need to be very careful with AI, especially content creators, because I do see a lot of content creators either who will automatically automate replies on my visuals just so they get some extra engagement, because I go and I comment other people's stuff as well, but I have not written a single comment by AI or automated. I think that is not cool to do. And creators who will really outsource AI to create content for them, I think they are doomed to fail, because like people are smart. They can smell this stuff and they will figure out. And when they will figure out, your reputation will be effed. And that's not good. And that's why I would really encourage people. Of course, I use AI to help me proofread stuff. If I have a line in my visual and I'm just, it's not really the right line, when I ask AI, hey, how can you say this in 10 different ways? And he spits out some answers. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I adjust maybe a small thing there. And then I put in my visual. It's like an assistant, like a proofreader. I very rarely actually use it for like idea generation, but yeah, mostly as a proofreader and just helping up with other words, as you would use probably like thesaurus to look for these synonyms, or whatever they are called. That's how I use it, but not in any major way. And I don't see myself doing it in any major way as well. It's like the same. Sometimes I get a lot of like pitches on my email. Hey, I'm a ghostwriter. I can write like your newsletter, this and that. It will whatever. Here's my proof. It will be like better, etc., etc. And I always say like I really do believe that it will be better. It will convert better. It will be better for my business. But I don't outsource my content, and that's it. And I'm sorry. So thank you. I know you're good, but I don't want to. I want to learn to write myself, and I will write my newsletter and nobody else. So that's how I think about it, because I think, yeah, like your reputation is on the line. And there are some creators where I know when they F up and make mistakes, oof, I've seen some people going down because they just, I don't know, they copied, for example, the exact tweet that somebody else posted, just copy paste the same post, and oh my god, he just got demolished online. So it's the same thing. So be very careful with this.
Yeah, I noticed as well the same thing on LinkedIn, like someone else plagiarizing another people, and probably yeah, they just hire someone and did it for them, and they got in a lot of trouble. And yeah, it's a pity, but I stand by what you said, because in this creator space and in general today, like I think the biggest differentiator that we have is us. Like AI cannot replace you. Everyone is unique, and if we outsource everything to AI, writing videos, because now videos with Synthesia and other tools, like it's amazing how they can do. But if we replace everything that we are with AI generated content, and with those that we serve. And speaking of, uh, who exactly is in your online course, and how much of them they are actually completing? Because I think nowadays it's so hard to finish something.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it was a big deal when I actually initially created this course, because there was two main things which I said to myself I want to do. First of all, like I in general, I create content I would like to consume. So I said, I want to create course I would like to consume as well. Now I'm partnering actually with another developer to build a software product. And I'm like, we are building product that we want to use. That's just how I operate with these things. And with the course, like two things which I was very intentional about, like I want to make it really no fluff. I want to give you the essence of what you need to know to produce this stuff. That was one thing which made it like quite short, so you can, like, instead of watching a Netflix movie, you can just watch this thing and have the knowledge. And the other thing was, like, I didn't want to have a fully self-paced course, because I know how hard it is to dump kind of all the required information that you need to know, but not having a tailored feedback, tailored support. So I have a self-paced course plus community, where I actually still to this date go through, like, everybody who submits a visual. I do like a Loom recording and I review their stuff. I say, okay, I think this is good. I think I would change this because of this and that. I think here you like made this, but this doesn't really work because this. And that's how a lot of students actually improve. Of course, as with all online courses, like, there's plenty of people who buy and don't submit the visuals. So, the don't submit any visuals because they don't want to put in the work. But at the same time, I would say that there's one of the main and positive things that I have gotten out of this course is that how many people, same as me, really enjoy the process. Because a lot of, when it comes to writing, a lot of people say, oh my God, writing is hard, but you need to sit down for 2 hours and write, and that's how you do it. But with visuals, it's very kind of different. 80% of the work is this brainstorming. You can wash dishes and think about concepts. You can just go about your day and come up with these concepts and take some notes. And that is like a big part of the process. So it's very fun. Same as in corporate world, everybody loves to go to the whiteboard and play with sticky notes and draw some charts. That's the fun part. That's what everybody enjoys. And that's actually like the biggest work when it comes to creating these visuals. Then sitting down and doing this in whatever tool you want to do, that's the easy part. Of course, first couple of visuals will be a bit harder, because maybe you don't have any of these software skills, but it's not that hard to learn. And there's so many people who have, I would say most people who have actually took the course and did something have zero design background, same as me. You asked again. I don't want to really, I never really in podcasts really pitch my course. I don't like to sell. Like, business is not my strength, but I'm just kind of explaining the stuff for people, maybe if they want to build courses or whatever. And you said, like, the target audience. Well, usually I attract like similar people as me. So it's like aspiring creators, early stage creators, sometimes maybe writers who struggle to get attention to their writing, because like visuals really help you kind of stop the scroll and have a look. So they want to leverage visuals to support their content. There's a lot of like marketers from companies that join sometimes to do some stuff for their landing pages. So it's really all over the place. Oh, a lot of coaches join the program as well. And they just, then use it when they're coaching sessions or whatever. But it's kind of funny, what was an interesting part? And I was like, kind of wanted to cry when I launched this course. There were a lot of people, of course, who joined and didn't actually like did anything or whatever. They just joined the community and some sessions and have fun in office hours where we just whatever talk about stuff. And they said that I actually don't want to learn visuals. You gave me a reason to support your work, because
Well,
I didn't have any like donation buttons or whatever. So I just launched the product, and that it was an instant buy for them because they just wanted to give back for all the free stuff that I have like kind of done. So that was actually tremendously nice.
that's wonderful. I think that's the big achievement when it comes to creating free content and putting content on a daily basis out there. Like, someone purchased it because I love your work. I was following you for a long time and I just want to support you. That's amazing, man. And I think that if anyone wants a reason to start creating content or to put themselves out there, probably this is the biggest one, because indeed money will follow if you follow what you're passionate about and you're actually solving a problem out there and so on. And in my opinion, you're solving a big problem, because people often think about complex topics, like complex ideas, and they cannot really fully understand them and actually making it work for them. And through a simple visual that explain with simplicity a complex topic, it's much more easier to have that one. And like, holy shit, it's that easy to actually get that ball going. For example, if you want to be productive and it's a visual about productivity or whatever, or the concept that you mentioned in which you have all these ideas in your brain, and if you put them on paper, it's much more clear and so on. So that's, I think, probably not so easy to see problem that you're solving in the world with your content. And one of the reasons why I follow your work for so long, because it's like always like, oh shit, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it's so easy to understand if you see on paper visually. Because at the end of the day, even if you are like, I will say that I have a math brain and a logical brain, but I love being explained in a visual way to things. And it's one of the reasons why some teachers in school allow me to grasp that concept with ease, because they literally create a concept around it visually. And going back a bit on the course building process, because you mentioned there's something that I think every single course creator out, every single person that is trying to productize in any way their knowledge, is to attach that one-on-one help. Because nowadays people don't just purchase online courses and go with them and finish them by themselves. That's very rare. But attaching that one-on-one support, I think it's so important. And do you mind sharing how much time you spend on that today, and especially at the beginning when was the launch phase and a lot of people join in, was overwhelming, or do you outsource any of the work or still doing everything?
No, I do everything alone. And today is it's actually not that much time. I host a couple of office hours throughout the month, or maybe some successful student joins and shares his story or whatever. Um, so I would say it's, I don't know. I would say it's probably not more than 8 hours. No, let's measure in weeks. I would say not more than probably on average like 3 hours per week to give the feedback sessions, to maybe host one office hour, and of course answer some comments and stuff. And of course, like when initially I launched, there was a lot of hype, a lot of energy, like more than it's now, obviously. And then it was like a lot more time. Now it's a bit less because it's more like calm and just people, like a couple of people join, and it's just more easy in that sense. So it's not a lot of time. But of course, I need to take into consideration the kind of the mental aspect that it kind of mentally consumes. Same as if you have some unfinished tasks, so you haven't sent like whatever your bookkeeper, all the things. It takes you 30 minutes to do it, but it consumes your mind and kind of eats your brain a bit. All these unfinished tasks. So there's that aspect of it, and I have thought about like just to completely make it fully self-paced, to get rid of that. Let just it be completely passive. I have thought about it, and I do believe I will do it at some point. But of course, then I think, the price should go a little bit down. There's market for everything. I don't know if you probably know Justin Welsh. He has his two courses, like now he has three courses, but he had his two courses, which were reasonably priced. They solved a specific problem. They, of course, came without any support or whatever. And obviously, because the dude is like giant and sells like 8,000 of them, how you can give one-on-one support? You can't. You need to put different price on it. So all that comes into consideration. But it's not that much of a time. And I think when I launched and created, it was really good that I did that pre-launch, because I feel I have a lot of perfectionism in me. But when I said, hey, this will be done in 1 month, here, go buy it now, and I will deliver on that date, that pre launch aspect, when people have paid you a lot of money and like you need to show up after that 1 month, or you need to return all that money, it's like you will get it done. But those were some stressful 2-3 weeks where I was just like going like crazy, and especially not being that good on camera, English not being my native language, and I try to record it and I just re-record and then I cringe and I like, oh, how can I get this done? But you know what? Again, I would say for people who want to create courses, another thing which I remember in one office hours in the early days when I launched this, she said that I love to buy first time courses from creators or whatever who makes it, because there is this initial kind of beginner energy that, I don't know, there is just something special when you put something out, even if it's raw and there is like typos and stuff and it's like crazy. There is just different energy. And I was like, when she said it, I was like, that makes sense. I'd rather buy a course from somebody I like to consume and I would love to hang out a bit, my whatever digital friend, when maybe if the course is messy and whatever, it's all crazy. I'd rather join that instead of something that, whatever, imagine some super famous like Stephen Bartlett's course on something. Yeah, I don't care. Like you are so out of touch. You're so big, so massive. It's just, no, I don't want that. I can, whatever, I can of course buy like Stephen Bartlett's book or whatever. That makes more sense. But like in terms of this course stuff and closer connection, I think there is some beautiful energy about just, because I came from a place, okay, I really wanna make your money worth it. That's why I added those feedback sessions, etc. So you come from a good place. I'm not scamming people. You asked, you want me to teach how I do this stuff. Like, here it is. I've done my best to deliver this to you in this whatever package. So you just need to come from a good place and don't make a course because I want to make a course or whatever. Or do, and I don't know, many people do and make money and it's all good, and just don't scam people with some absolutely fake promises or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned there's something about the raw aspect of things, like, and especially at the beginning, and when you don't have a lot of budget for post production and, I don't know, professional setup or studios and stuff like that. And I think the beauty of nowadays that anyone can be a creator. Anyone can actually build online courses if they have the years in the trenches of testing things and doing things and so on. But indeed, you need those eyeballs on that. And I want to touch on that because a lot of people don't have your huge audience. Of course, you work hard to get at this point. But for those that, let's say, they have under the 10,000 mental barrier, I will say, because I think one friend said that if you pass that 10,000 followers, there's something happening in your audience eyes. Your trust grows exponentially. Not sure if that's true. I'd love to hear your perspective on that. But if you're below that, before sharing, how people can actually sell things if they're just content?
Well, I'm not sure if I really agree with the 10,000 point. I think it really matters because, think about it. Essentially, you can take my visuals, you can package them in some nice carousels, use all the hashtags that work on LinkedIn, on Twitter, whatever. There's plenty of people who do. Some people don't give credit, which if I see, I mention, hey, this is not okay, whatever. But I have my whatever on my visuals. There is this ozo.art where you can go and I'm like establishing some rules. Feel free to share this, tag me. And a lot of people do that and they go viral, they grow audiences or whatever under some fake, some no, some yes. No, I like that a lot of people shared it, but there are some of these are really these growth boys who have some whatever mindset mastery account and they just reuse every viral stuff that they can scrap on the internet, and they have a million followers on Twitter and they make not that much money. Of course, maybe on Twitter now it's a bit differently because there is this monetization program, so I kind of get a little bit of revenue, ad revenue share similarly as people do on YouTube, but they can't sell stuff. Their reputation is zero. It's just a kind of a mindless, not a mindless, but it's just, I don't know. There is no reputation. There is no skin in the game, and that doesn't work. When I started, I really committed to be like very like ethical, very on point, very much respecting my audience's attention. I don't want to retweet some random stuff and then one day talk about cooking, one day about this. Like, my big intention was like, I want to respect my audience's attention. I create this content, it's super fast to digest. As you said yourself, it makes you think in like different ways and just absorb well-known ideas just in a little bit different way. And I felt that could be useful. And it grew that reputation that, hey, Janis is really good at explaining ideas visually. And me answering every single comment in the early days that I got, that even strengthens, wow, he's like a real human, he's good at this and he's really nice, etc. And when I got my, let's say, my first freelance gig, it again was a very fulfilling moment because I follow this, I respect my audience's attention, I say like thanks and answer to everybody in the comments and just try to be a genuinely nice human being online. when that Sean Purry, who's like a big deal from My First Million podcast, when he commented like, hey, who is next? Jack Butcher, I need help in visualizing my course or whatever. And Jack Butcher at the time was like another guy who makes visuals, but he was like some years before and he already made it. And now he's like in a crypto space, whatever. But he was like a big deal and he was not available for freelance. So he asked that question. And so many people jumped in the comments and mentioned my name, which was just, again, all that reputation and all that being nice online and showing your skill set led to that. So it's really simple as that, as like building reputation in a specific thing. So I think you need to think about
That
you
niche.
need to think about a bit how you are, like differentiating yourself, how you can, like Naval has this quote, become the best in the world at what you do, redefined what you do until it's true. I think that was the quote, which is in some sense kind of true. You think about whatever Ali Abdal and you think, oh yeah, the productivity guy and all these things. You want to kind of own some of these words. And I guess it's easy to say because visuals was like a bit like coming up thing when, and maybe it was easier to break out with that. So I don't know. And then,
Yeah, but in the same time,
yeah,
you can attach something to that, right? Like, for example, you probably still be in the space of productivity or in your space and still stand out with that if you attach part of your story. I bet those people that go through your course, they take it, they understand the concept, and they go and build their own niche. They build something around a specific topic. Let's say, for example, productivity. You can build visuals only about productivity, or only about nomading, or only about solopreneurship, and that's one way to stand out. Like, you can go a few levels deeper and still be unique and attach, of course, part of your personality or
absolutely. Yeah, I very much agree with this. But like, I'm not a massive fan of the idea that you need to have this one specific niche, for the rest of your life. I think you need a niche to break through, to get in the game, to get some momentum, to get things going. Because I don't want to do this like for the rest of my life as well. As I said, I'm building a software product with one dev. I try to expand myself. I try now to share as my audience has grown. I try to share a bit more of like my personality or whatever to build, I guess, some more trust. So people don't go only for me to like my visuals, but hey, I want to know how Janis is as a person. I want to know what Janis' opinion is about this thing or whatever. So I think it's easier to expand, but I think it would be very hard to start if I would do all what I do now when I started out. I started very specifically, like I talked mostly about like creator struggles, creative stuff, a little bit of productivity, anything that I felt is interesting, and those visuals. And I was very intentional about to respect audience's attention, not to clutter my feed with like bullshit or whatever. And I think that focus is important initially. But remember, you can expand later down the line. It's not that crazy.
yeah, absolutely agree with that. Because at the end of the day, if like at the best podcast, like I won't be a nomad for the entire of my life. So I'm not known for as the nomad solopreneur, but that can change, and I'm actually pivoting slowly to change that to the productized solopreneur, because that's my work, and that's what uh, that also will change in time. Will be something totally else. But going back to you, the human Janis, like I know we talk a lot about business by now, but I'd love to hear and share a bit about your lifestyle, because you go from a bit colder climate to live in sunny Spain.
Yeah, all my life I've been living in Latvia, got married there, got 2 kids there, we built a house there. But actually, thanks to this very business I currently have, it just opened up the possibilities to kind of explore a bit further what's up. And I think both for my wife and me, we always have had this itch of seeing a bit how it would be somewhere else to live or whatever. And like she in university studied like French and Spanish language, so she spoke Spanish. And then we loved Spain, so then we sat down and think about, okay, where we could like where we could move. And we tried to decide between Portugal and Spain, but ended up with Spain. And as our kids at that time were just preschool, they were just about they started school here. We moved here, we lived here for half year, and they started school here. So it was like again, another incentive because the friends are not that established back in Latvia. We felt like it will be easier for them to integrate here or whatever. And of course, it has been. And they both speak like Spanish now. It's crazy. Like, I still don't speak Spanish. I understand some basic stuff, but sometimes I'm sitting at the dinner table and I'm like, holy shit, I don't understand my own family. Because they just, you switch between languages and they will now be raised as these like kind of bilingual kids. Though both me and my wife, we are both Latvians. We speak Latvian at home, but sometimes English language just comes because it's easier to express ourselves. And there's all these words where we don't know how to say it maybe in Latvian. So yeah, we've been here for a bit less than 2 years. We intentionally chose Europe because we are in the zone where we don't need any visas or anything. And it's there, like, we are 15-20 minutes from airport when there is direct flight back to Riga. So grandmas can still fly here, fly back. It's not that crazy with family because of course that was like a big concern. But still, all our like parents at least were separated when they were like all over Latvia. So it was like, I don't know, we still see our family like every now and then. It's not that crazy, like we live next to each other. So whatever, let's move to Spain. And now it's cool, actually. They grab a direct flight, they come here for a week or two, and we actually spend a lot of time together. But when back in home, they visit for 2 hours when it's like on off a little visit. But here it's like an intentional 1 week, 2 weeks together, which is actually pretty cool in that sense as well, which was a little bit of our fear. So it's been great. And the weather is fantastic. We love it. We are spending so much more time outdoors. I learned surfing, which is awesome. Big fan of it. So I don't know if you have any more questions on that, but that was kind of decision. But basically, this business enabled me to do it.
That's a nice thought, because indeed, like, we often see the money that is coming in the bank accounts or other perks that comes with that, a nicer house, a nicer car, whatever, but we don't see the fact that it's allowing us to live where you want on our own terms without being strapped to an office or to a location nowadays. And that location, money, freedom, it's so much important. And of course that can lead to time freedom as well. And I'm not sure if there's a better definition for solopreneurship and nomadism than this. And I can continue to talk with you forever. I can have so many other questions about the next step. And I want to actually conclude with that. I'm not sure if you are able to share any insights or teasers about the software.
Not yet. I said I will share what it is in my next newsletter and like open a wait list so I can have some beta testers that I can bring in and just ask some feedback or whatever. But what I can say is that if you are into kind of content creation stuff, you will benefit from it. And it's something that I am building for myself. We are building something that there is plenty of other alternatives out there, but there is none that really fits the way how we are building it. So it's very much same as with my content. I create content I want to see. I created course I would like to consume. That's how I operate. So I'm very confident that it will be beneficial and awesome for at least one person, which is me. But I assume that there will be plenty of other people who will appreciate it as well. So yeah, but you can sign up to my newsletter and I will share more. And of course, I will, when the things will get going, I will share more on Twitter, Instagram, probably every social media where I'm at. So you can join on my newsletter and jump on the waitlist if that sounds interesting for you.
Awesome. And I'll put the links in the show notes as well. And that's the thing, right? Like, if you build something for us to solve a problem that we face, often that problem is faced by others and will solve multiple people problems. And to really wrap up, please tell those that are watching or listening and they're still on the fence on becoming a creator, because they hear all the perks that can come with that. And of course, that's not guaranteed, but what's the first step they can do in less than 1 week to start on this journey?
There's a lot of things you can do in 1 week, but if I can share like two things. First, I want to share my all-time favorite quote, which I actually have used in my journey quite a lot. It is from Brendan Burchard, who's like a self-help guy. And the quote goes like this: I believe in my abilities to figure things out. And to add a bit of context to this, it's not like you are standing in the mirror and saying, I'm rich, but knowing that in your bank account you are dead poor. but believe in your abilities to figure things out, because maybe you drive a car now, but back in the days when you started driving, you were like, oh my God, what is the steering wheel, how I can even do this, etc. It was the case for me, and I'm sure it's for many others. There is so many things that you didn't know how to do. There is so many goals that you didn't thought you will accomplish, but you did. Why not this thing that you aspire to do? And just continuing on that, just move the ball forward every single day. I don't care if you post something, if not, but at least feed that dream. Listen to 15 minutes of some inspirational audiobook, go create that content, do this, reach out to that person, just get the ball rolling. Of course, you will make mistakes, you will need to iterate. Probably the first things you will make will be crap, and that is okay. We all started like that. You just need to believe in your abilities to figure things out, and just continue to iterate and move that ball forward, and things will work out. I'm cheering for you.
Man, thank you so much, Janis. I think I couldn't ask for a better ending to this episode than this. You, yes, you're one of the few that stick to the end. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing so. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so below. And if you got any value from this, please share it with a friend. They might got some value from it as well. Thank you so much, and until next week, pura vida!